This is the Gemini from BinBok Play, and it is a budget Hall effect sensing joystick controller, and it almost does everything you want it to do. Now, spec-wise, this has got quite a lot going for it, to be perfectly honest. I mean, straight away you can see this really cool transparent design where you can see the various rumble motors because it has more than one rumble. It also has this really cool, like, minimalist but also nice RGB styling, and you can adjust all of this. It does have Hall effect sensing joysticks, of course. We've got an 8-way D-pad. We've got all the traditional buttons on the front, and I do like that they've kept it clean with just, you know, your standard home, screenshot, plus, minus, and then the normal buttons. I don't really like it when there's lots of clutter on the front, so I do quite like that styling. On the top, we've got our L, R, ZL, ZR buttons, and we also have USB-C charging. It does have an internal battery. We've also got a sync button at the top just there, and then on the back we get loads of stuff. So along with the standard stuff, like, yes, it does have 6-axis gyro, all those buttons on the back and switches are extra features. So not only do we have mappable macro buttons, essentially, so we've got macro and button swap buttons so that you can change any button that you want, even the clicks of L3 and R3, if you want to call it that, to these, which I massively prefer. They also do 21 input record macro, so you can record 21 different inputs to one of these back paddles, which is pretty cool. And then we've got some other buttons as well. Now we've got M, which is to do the button swap or the macro. We've got T, which is for turbo. We've got this, which is more like a little light symbol, which adjusts the RGB, and then we have this switch. Now this switch actually does 3 things, essentially. You've got off, so no rumble, so that's pretty cool. You don't have to go into settings to turn it off if you don't like rumble at all, but who doesn't like some kind of rumble, right? And then on either side, we've got left and right. We've got linear rumble, which is HD rumble, cool. And then we've also got rotor rotor rumble. It's me that's mumbling. And because we've got this transparent design, you can actually see the rotor rumble there, and the HD rumble, I'm assuming, is underneath. I'm not too sure. So if I turn it the other way, you should see this rotor go round. There we go. So that is traditional rumble. So like old school rumble, which is literally just throwing a weight around in a circle, and that's what gives it a rumble feel. But it's just kind of like set. Do you know what I mean? Whereas linear rumble is also referred to as HD rumble, and that is akin to, you know, the Joy-Cons down here, right? So I've been using it without rotor rumble because why do you want that? I mean, in terms of feel, it's a very heavy rumble, rotor rumble, because it's throwing that weight around, right? Whereas linear rumble is a bit more buzzy, you know, it's a little bit less like heavy feeling. And the thing with the HD rumble, or the linear rumble on this, is it's not as good as the official, you know, Nintendo HD rumble. Even on the actual Pro controller, like, that's nicer, but this ain't bad. You know, I'm not saying it's terrible, but it's just not quite there, you know? But it's a nice feature to have. I think, personally, they could have just done away with having the option. Just stick linear rumble, just put HD rumble in it and call it quits. Like, I don't need both. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would always choose HD rumble over rotor rumble myself, so I'm not too sure why there's an option there, but I suppose if you prefer rotor rumble, then you've got that option. Now the stylings, of course, it's all like plastic, so I'm not massively keen on it, to be perfectly honest, because it is like a fingerprint magnet. It's all like glossy plastic, and that's fine, you know, it's quite funky to look at. I do like these RGB LED lights, and I like the fact that you can see the rotor rumble, even though I've always got it turned off, so I never see them spinning, but, you know, that's just something to say. There's no, like, grip on the back or anything. It's just kind of like straight up plastic. But again, this is a more budget styled controller, right? And yeah, I mean, the stylings are just kind of classic Switch Pro controller shape and everything. It feels nice in the hands, it's all comfortable, nothing's different there. Of course, we've got an 8-way D-pad, so that's different than the Pro controller, which rolls around and like clicks slightly. We've got the joystick like covers and caps just here, which are quite cool. They're like a funky design, and they are like a rubberized plastic, so they're quite nice. I do find them a little bit skiddy. You know, that could just be me, but you know, it's not got like a real fine grip where you feel really secure on it. It's just a little bit skiddy, but honestly in use when you're holding it naturally and like playing and stuff, it's not like a major deal, to be perfectly honest. All the buttons feel fine, you know, like they're membrane and they're fine, you know, they're consistent with one another. The triggers are also consistent with one another. So these triggers up the top here, they are nice and consistent. We've got, well, the bumpers is what I'm talking about. The triggers, again, they are just digital triggers and they're pretty good, to be honest. Like there's not much pre or post travel going on here. Like they feel the same consistently. I've not had any like issues with waking the Switch up because it does have wake from sleep just by holding the home button as well. And the macro buttons are really cool as well. You know, like in terms of like styling and everything, it feels nice in terms of where their layout is. So, you know, you can just hold it pretty comfortably and get straight to those buttons, and all the other switches and buttons are out of the way, which you don't really need to be getting access to, you know, once you've set what you're setting. You're done. So let's just take you over the turbo and the macro. Turbo's really easy. It's only got one style of turbo, so some controllers have like multiple stages of turbo. This is just like one turbo setting, and to be honest, that's fine for most people. So all turbo does is essentially repeat an action for you once it's being held. This does not have the ability to set it and then not hold it. It's just one setting of turbo. So what I'm going to do, just for this sake, if you can see Red Dead over here, let's bring it over the top here. So we're on Red Dead on the Switch. This is the Switch, by the way. This is the Nitro deck, if you're wondering. So this is a Switch OLED. So I'm going to do it to this aim down sights, right? So what I'm going to do is hold turbo, and then I'm going to press aim down sights and let go. And now you can have epilepsy. So there we go. Now it's just repeating that action so many times, it looks a little bit silly, but of course if you're doing like a certain game where you need to be like digging or something, like take Animal Crossing, I used to find turbo really helpful when I used to play Animal Crossing for running around digging like a whole island up, right? You just hold the button down and away you go. So this can do that. To clear the turbo, all you need to do is hold the turbo and then the button you've assigned again, and now I can press the aim down sights and, you know, turbo's gone, which is really cool. Now the macro buttons, again, really easy. You're just going to hold M and then choose which side you want to program. Now I'll show you button swap first. So again, let's try this one. So R3 looks behind you on Red Dead, right? So I'm going to hold M, I'm going to press this button just here, and then I'm going to press look down sights, and then I'm going to press the button again, and then that's done it. So there we go. So it's button swap, and it's a true button swap. So if you've got, let's say Zelda, where you hold down, I think it's Y, and he charges the sword up and then spins. Some that have button swap actually only record like a macro of you pressing that button. So if you held it, it wouldn't actually act as you holding the button. It would just play like that 1 second blip of you pressing it, if that makes sense. This does have true button swap. So if you do it for Zelda, for instance, and held down that macro button, it will actually charge up his sword, which is really cool. I really like it when there's true button swap instead of just like a macro record of a button swap. Confusing, I know, but hopefully you understand. Now, to clear that, we're going to do the same thing. So hold M and then the button you've just assigned, and then press the button you've just assigned when you've let go of the M. And now that back button, I cannot speak, does nothing. But we can also do multiple presses. So there's 21 inputs, right? So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to press M, we're going to press the button that we want. Now I'm going to look down sights, I'm going to look left, I'm going to look right, I'm going to not look down sights, I'm going to look down sights, I'm going to get off my horse. There we go. And then I'm going to press it again. Right now I'm just going to get back on the horse so that I can play the macro. And now I'm going to press this button and let go. Ready? There we go. And now it's repeating that whole action for me. Oh, and getting me into trouble on Red Dead. And there we go. And now my horse has left me. So great. Now let's look at the RGB styling. So we got one button, right? And you can basically cycle through 2 different RGB modes or set colors. So you've got like standard set colors just here, and you can just go around. I really like that sort of teal blue. Don't know why I'm digging teal blue at the minute, but I am. And then we've got various different colors until you go around, and then it hits this like RGB sort of wavy feel one, which is quite nice, to be honest. I quite like that. And there's another one as well, which is just a bit more like colorful rather than like a bit more muted. And then you can double press and you can turn it off, or you can have it where basically it will rumble react. So every time the game rumbles, it will then do like a flash of light, which is cool. And that's by double pressing this back paddle. So there's some various options for the RGB stylings, and you can of course turn it off as well, just by going through that process, which is pretty cool. Now I do have to say, I did notice with the RGB lights on that the battery life of the controller definitely dropped a fair bit. So I ended up just turning this off. So yeah, cool. I mean, maybe if you put it to the rumble reacts one, I did have it at full brightness, because you can change the brightness. I forgot to say that. Just by holding that button down, I do have it on breathing mode now, but if you just hold it down, it will cycle through different brightnesses, which could save you some battery life. But I left it on full battery life on a static one, and it did drain fairly quickly. So it probably shaved off like an extra hour or two compared to the lights being off, and that was just in my use. Now, yes, we do have Hall effect sensing joysticks, which are amazing. Of course, you're looking at zero drift because there's no contact. It uses magnets instead of like sliding along itself, which can cause issues. And of course, you get drift in the Joy-Cons. This you're not going to get drift in because it has Hall effect sensing joysticks, which is really cool. And the other benefit is better accuracy, essentially lower dead zone, and just, you know, they're just really good. And to be honest, I've not had any issues with this controller in terms of inaccuracy. I'm such a Hall effect sensing advocate now. Like, it's just really nice. So I've been playing this game and other games with no issues whatsoever. So let's just back out and go into the settings quickly. And as you can see, I'm hardly even moving it, and it is moving instantly. You know, there's not any dead zone. So if you don't know, dead zone would be like, I'm moving the stick, I'm moving the stick, I'm moving the stick. Oh, and now it's saying that I'm moving the stick, right? So essentially, I think normal controllers are like up to something like 8% or maybe 10% dead zone in terms of potentiometer, whereas Hall effect sensing can be between 3 and 5%, which honestly you don't even notice anyway when it's that low. I feel like there's no dead zone whatsoever, and they're really quick to react as well, like super quick. So this comes in at $40, which is relatively low, and I'm pretty sure you can save 10% off if you use our discount code down in the description, which makes it even cheaper, right? So what do I think of it? Well, I actually think it's a pretty good budget controller. The styling is not really for me. I like it, but you know, I don't really like gloss. So it's not really my thing. But to be honest, with the features that this has and how easy it is to use and the performance that you're getting from it, I actually really dig this controller, you know? Like, I think it's pretty cool. And for the price point, I would recommend it. You know, if you're looking for a secondary controller, or if you're on a budget and you're looking for a good, you know, high quality stick controller, then this is actually a really good route to go. Like I said, if you save that 10% as well, you're looking at like $36. That's pretty affordable, and this does pretty much everything. There's not any like major gripes I have with this. There's nothing that didn't work. Yes, the battery life is affected by the RGBs, and I don't like the styling, and I don't see the point of having both HD rumble and rotor rumble. Just remove that entirely, but everything else, it's fine. You know, there's not a problem with it really. Oh, before we go, you know, the biggest issue I'm going to nitpick is the D-pad. You know, like, it's fine, but it's clicky and it's a bit meh. Like, it's not my favorite D-pad, I will say that. But other than that, for the price, what do you expect? So let me know your thoughts on the BinBok Play Gemini. Are you going to get one? Are you looking for a budget Hall effect sensing controller for the Switch? Let me know your thoughts down below. And whilst you're here, subscribe, of course, like this video, and then go check out me and AJ over on the podcast channel where we talk about all things gaming. Then check out the other BinBok video, the BinBok Play of the Pro controller, which I really enjoyed. The only negative of that was there's no Hall effect sensing joysticks, but it's a really good controller, so check that one out as well. Bye.